the Tuesday, November 21st Nisswa meeting of the regular city council meeting. If you'd all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And as far as quorum issues go, we do have Jesse's on Zoom. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have an amended agenda, which has been amended again. We are, before we approve the agenda, we wanted to move, we took item G1, from old business about the grooming permit request from Gull Lake Drifters, and we're going to move that to the top of new business above the current number 1. So, with that, and then we also have the late addition as noted of donation resolution for the Parks Department. With that understanding, I'd like to get a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Unless there are any questions about it, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to, and I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Open forum. Public comment is the first item on an open forum. This is a chance for anyone in the audience that wants to address the council about something that's not on the agenda for tonight to do so. If they wish to bring anything up that if you wish to make a comment about things that are on the agenda, you will be given time at that point in the meeting. So we will open public comment. If there's anyone. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Number 2, under open forum, we would like to do a recognition of the Gull Lake Trail Committee members. So, go. Yeah, I was. First, party Roger Landers. If Roger is here, if you please come up. He's going the long way. Roger, thank you very much for all your work.
Yeah, well, it's not done yet.
No, it's not, but it's the next party we'd like to acknowledge is Paula West. Paula, I don't believe, is with us tonight. We want to thank Paula for all her work. Next party, Bill Meyer. Is Bill here with us tonight? Not seeing Bill. Again, critical part of the Tessa Capelle. Tessa.
Capel.
Huh?
Capel.
Thank you very much for all your work. Thanks. And Mark Ronai. I don't see Mark here. So again, appreciate all of the work and effort that you've been putting into this. Thank you all very much. Okay. Next item on our agenda is reports. City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Good evening, members of the council. Tonight you have my written report in your packet. A handful of the items that I noted in my report we will be discussing under new business, so we will talk about some of those items at that time. I also just wanted to just highlight the addition under your consent calendar that we had added to the packet tonight. That was to accept grant funding for the final leg of the Gull Lake Trail project in the amount of $855,876, which is significant and really exciting for the city of Nisswa. Because of how they have requested to work the contract, we will actually not have to go through the legislative process to receive the funds. And so we'll be on a slightly accelerated time schedule as far as the contract goes. We still plan to, the idea is to construct in 2025, but we won't have to go through that legislative process. But I just wanted to just note that because that's significant that we received that funding, and say congrats to Amber, our Parks Director, and Widseth for all the help in the project.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, again, we'll have some more items under new business. Thank you.
City attorney will join us in a little bit. He was going to running a little late. The city engineer is not with us, so tonight. That puts us at new business. And we have amended the agenda so that G1 is actually going to be the first item. And this is the Gull Lake Drifters request to groom, reference the request to groom. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read their packet and go through that. Is Amber here, or how do we want to?
Yes, I think it would be helpful as far as maybe just a high level of the request from the drifters and a recommendation from the steering committee.
Sure.
That'd be great.
This item was tabled from the November meeting. The Gull Lake Drifters did request to groom the Gull Lake Trail along Lower Roy Lake Road and Hazelwood Drive. The Gull Lake Trail Steering Committee had a meeting November 9th to review the information. We had a very good dialogue with the Gull Lake Drifters, trying to just understand their processes and their wishes, the expectations. We have a lot of people here that have also given their concerns, their questions. The Gull Lake Trail Steering Committee ultimately recommended to not groom the Gull Lake Trail along Hazelwood Drive and Lower Roy Lake Road. So happy to answer any additional questions. I'm sure there's plenty of people here that would also like to say something. But happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Amber?
I think I'll wait until I hear from more people first.
Certainly.
Okay. Any questions, Jesse?
No, sir. I've been a part of the process with them and I understand the stance of the committee and back them.
What did
Are
you
you
say?
You able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I'm not hearing you clearly.
One moment.
Hear that?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to open it up for public comment then? If there's anyone that wishes, we do have 5 minute, a 5 minute maximum. So if anyone wishes to address council at this time.
While I'm sure there will be an individual or two that comes up to the podium, I would like to note that the city did receive this afternoon a petition or a list of names from property owners, 53 signatures requesting not to groom the trail. I believe Amber has also received 2 phone calls regarding not grooming the trail. No feedback received in support of grooming the trail aside from the drifters request. So I just wanted to let the council know that we did receive that today.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. If no one wishes to address the council on the matter, we'll be happy to. Okay.
Tim Wagner, 24788 Hazelwood Drive. Within just the last 7 months, I've received 4 notices of public hearing from the city of Nisswa for items deemed to be of such importance to certain affected property owners that they warranted separate notification. 2 of them were for conditional use permits. And although I can find no difference in substance between a conditional use permit and the snowmobile trail permit, and even though this issue impacts every single property owner along Hazelwood Drive and Lower Roy Lake Road, this apparently doesn't rise to that level of importance. But when John and Jane Doe want a conditional use permit for the construction of a warehouse structure, I get a notice, I left the October meeting with a sense of relief, knowing that the city now had an entire month to properly notify property owners about this last-minute October agenda item. But a notice never came. How can we operate this way? Do you want to know what the biggest reason why this permit should not be approved as written is? Out of respect for the commitment to the residents that was already made. This city council, a council that a number of you were a part of then, in conjunction with the Gull Lake Trail Advisory Committee, promised the residents at 3 open houses that this section of trail would not be groomed and approved it as such. Keep your word. Do you want to know how we can respond to every snowmobile traffic, speed, and noise concern that has been brought before you? By not approving this permit as written. Snowmobiles are going to use the trail anyway. We might as well groom it. That was a comment made last month. The issue is not about whether snowmobiles are going to use the trail. It's about converting the proverbial country road into an interstate. There's an acceptable level of snowmobile traffic, speed, and noise, the ungroomed version of the trail, and there is an unacceptable level of snowmobile traffic, speed, and noise, the groomed version of the trail. By striking grooming activities from this permit, these issues are addressed. Everyone is still a winner. This section of trail never was part of the trail system. The Snowmobile Club still has their existing groom trail and 371 crossing. And for those who don't want that option, there is a secondary marked but ungroomed trail. Then there is the whole liability issue raised by the club at the last meeting. By grooming the trail, the club maintains they can relieve the city of all liability. A lot of ears perked up when that comment was made. But the reality is, absent any permit, does the city really have any liability? It's an ungroomed trail with a posted speed limit of 20 miles per hour in the right-of-way. Minnesota Rule 6100.5200 subpart 4 says it is unlawful to operate a snowmobile in excess of the posted speed limits on a trail or a speed greater than various conditions indicate or dictate for the trail, terrain, and visibility. In other words, ride at your own risk. If the conditions on the ungroomed trail dictate a speed of 10 miles per hour, then you go 10 miles per hour. Imagine the city had a public beach. A posted sign read, "No lifeguard on duty, swim at your own risk." If I drowned, is the city responsible for my death? Of course not. How is this any different? Without a snowmobile trail permit of some kind, for this section of trail, the Snowmobile Club has no recognized trail. It can't appear on a trail map or be marked as such. Furthermore, the conditions spelled out in this snowmobile trail permit, lest any reference to grooming activities, are conditions the club should already have to agree to just for the privilege of being able to use it as an ungroomed trail. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter affecting all of the residents along Hazelwood Drive and Lower Red Lake Road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Is there anyone else?
Mike Burns, 24876 Hazelwood Drive. I've read through what Tim was going to say tonight. I think one of the things that need to be addressed is, yes, Hazelwood Drive is going to become a freeway for snowmobiles on a weekend. There's going to be hundreds of sleds a day. There are multiple driveways that will cross that are within a half a block apart. It's just going to be an absolute zoo coming through there. Several of us have homes right on the trail. There's a couple on Lower Roy Lake Road that they're 40 feet from the edge of the trail. We've got others like myself. I'm between 25 and 30 feet from the edge of the trail. Our bedroom's on the front side there. The noise is going to be horrendous. I can step outside to let my dog out at night and hear them on the Paul Bunyan Trail. That's half mile away or more. We got to think through this stuff. I've been told that this trail was funded because it was a multi-use trail and that we have to allow snowmobiles on it. That is never what we were told from day one. I was at the very first meeting that we had for the public that was available to be here. We were all told it would not be a groomed trail. We were guaranteed by the Gull Lake Drifters at the time that they did not want to groom this trail coming through a residential neighborhood. I don't understand what has changed. Who has lied to the community? This is getting out of hand. I guess that's all I've got right now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll close public comment and it's up to the council now. Joe, do you have anything?
I guess maybe.
Or do we want to just take a vote? Whatever.
Well, I guess, I think we should address a few things. And I guess maybe Amber, could answer, clarify, but yeah, with reference to the funding on the trail, it was funded and the decision on whether it's a snowmobile trail or not a snowmobile trail happened years back before we were involved. And that was part of the funding that we received at the state and federal levels, correct, Amber?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Some of the Gull Lake Trail Steering Committee members have actually been here since the beginning, so they
Right.
could attest to some of that. My most recent communication with Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails, based on their interpretation of the Gull Lake Trail Master Plan, says it's a multi-use recreational trail that does allow snowmobiling.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily make reference, from what I have found, about grooming. But I've heard many people attest to the communication that was passed out that the intention was not to groom.
Correct.
So, but I have not heard that from the funding source
The
necessarily.
trail has always been designed to be a multi-purpose trail from the very beginning. As the only
Correct.
council member present that today that was here when we started this whole project. That's what it always was. It was always the understanding of the city that we would have to allow snowmobiles to use it. There was never any mention whether we groom it or not. That wasn't it, but just that snowmobiles were allowed to use it. In fact, the biggest debate was whether or not golf carts were going to be allowed to use it at the time.
And that's also a no,
Yeah, that is a no. Yeah.
just to be clear.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. And-
So,
Oh,
go ahead.
and so with that, it's not a question of if snowmobilers are gonna use it or aren't gonna use it.
going to.
Snowmobilers are gonna use it. And I don't know, for doing limited snowmobiling myself up until this summer, also living on the road, I did not know that it was also gonna be allowed as a snowmobile trail. I just thought it was a walking trail. However, now that I've learned too, that snowmobilers are gonna use it, and knowing about snowmobilers and snowmobile trails and ungroomed snowmobile trails, what do snowmobilers do when the trail's ungroomed? They move over 10 feet, ride in the fresh powder where it's smoother. Nobody wants to go through the bumps. They move over 10 feet, they move over 20 feet, and the trail goes from 10 feet wide to 20 feet wide to 30 feet wide to 40 feet wide. You can see it throughout the ditches up and down the highway. And that's what happens on an ungroomed trail. As far as it goes. Also too, just for everyone's knowledge, the trail is in Nisswa, but I also personally called over to Lakeshore, spoke with Terry Hastings, the head of the city over there, and the rest of the trail going through there in Homebrook Township. Fairview Township. That portion of this trail, they all voted and agreed upon to let the drifters groom that portion. So coming into the trail from outside of our community too, That's already gonna be groomed and, I guess a welcoming trail to drive snowmobilers into here. The trail just doesn't stop and start at the city limits. It's a small part of a lot bigger trail that the rest of it's gonna be groomed as far as promoting snowmobiling. I guess with that said, and knowing about snowmobiling and the trails, I would say the best way to keep the snowmobilers where they should be on the trail would be to groom it, so they're not up in people's yards and out and about. As far as the speed goes and the amount of snowmobilers, they're gonna go on the trail regardless, you know. I think, if it's not groomed, you know, they're gonna be in the, opposite side of the road, the opposite ditch, up in people's yards. And it would actually be more of a mess from just what I know of it. So that's my 2 cents, but go ahead.
Mark?
Yeah, I was just curious, this funding that we got for this, are we obligated to make it a snowmobile trail?
Yes,
But that doesn't mean that we're obligated to do the
Grooming.
grooming or not.
No.
Then the other thing too, I can see where like in Lakeshore, that area, if they groom it, it seems like they're a lot further apart, the houses and everything. What we're talking about is here in Nisswa, there's a lot of houses close by, close together in that certain portion, right?
sure.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, so
So
that's just one of my ideas, that it's just that they're a lot closer too. But then the other thing too is if we groom it, won't there be a lot more snowmobilers versus if we don't groom it?
we don't, well.
We don't
potentially.
know, but
Okay.
they're
Not
going to use
necessarily.
it anyway.
They're gonna
I
use it
know that.
regardless. Yeah,
And I can understand, it's that they might want to try to get off because of the fresh
Right.
powder and everything. But if there's that much space to do so or not, I'm wondering about. And if we make it easy for them to ride, they'll come.
yeah, and I don't think it's so much a matter of ease. They're gonna be there no matter what. And it's kind of a proven fact. An ungroomed trail, they're not gonna stay on it. They're gonna go wider. They're gonna go the opposite side of the road. They're gonna ride where the powder is fresh, where it's smooth. I guess the
Yeah.
other thing that I look at it is there's a lot of walkers on the road anyhow,
Mhm.
throughout the winter, walking dogs, doing all that stuff. Walking down a freshly groomed trail to just walk and exercise,
I'm sorry.
you know.
There's been sled riding on that trail to
Yeah.
walk through the hot for your kid.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
All on the trail. Sorry for talking over that.
Thank you.
I believe Jesse has a comment.
Jesse, go ahead.
I'll add my perspective to it if you guys are ready for me. Don't mean to cut you off, Joe.
No, go for it.
Okay. Stepped into the liaison position of this after roughly a year, maybe, after being on council. I've been working with Amber, Roger, Jenny, Bill, Tess, Mark to be able to get this thing through to the final stages here. We're fourth and goal. We've all the hard work's been done. These guys have done a great job, and thank you all for everything you've done. Truthfully speaking, it's a 50-50 toss up as to what we can anticipate, what we think is going to come to what maybe will actually be the true use of the trail. The Gully Trail Advisory Committee had multiple reasons for the no grooming. Multiple factors have all been discussed in prior discussions. We did have, I would say, a pretty lengthy discussion with Gully drifters and got good perspective. I want it to be known that whichever route we go, specifically if we go the route of having the trail not groomed and adhering to the residents' request, and it's good to know that that petition was signed, and thank you for everybody for participating on that. It does not mean that we do not have to reconsider this again down the road if the residents have a change in opinion on that. If, Joe, what you say comes to fruition, and it very well may, where there's snowmobiles going into the yards, there's gonna be a whole new slate of problems that we're gonna be addressing, and that's public safety as well. So the big question is, do the benefits to a select group of recreational users of the trail by grooming outweigh the rights of tax-paying residents? That was a point brought up by Paula. And her opinion, as well as mine, I would say no, not when there's alternatives. We have issues of speed, we have issues of safety, issue to the noise of the residents, and the respect for commitment to residents at open houses. Damage to the new trails, which we discussed in detail, using the new roundabout as an example, just on the south side of coming off of 371. Additionally, the access to Colonel Thorpe Drive has been available. It's never not been available. A big concern for the drifters, and ultimately, I think a long-term goal, similar to as the city worked towards when it came to pedestrian traffic crossing 371, in which we put in the tunnel to the lake park, is access, is a safe and accommodable route to be able to cross Highway 371 for all snowmobilers. I think that's a greater question here, that I don't want to use this trail as a reason that we need to have that be ultimately the reason why we need to implement that. So ultimately, I think that in honoring the committees that we ask volunteers ultimately to be able to come through and do hard work, which this group has been together for, Roger's probably going to shake his head up because I'm going to get it wrong, but I think 4.5 years. It's been quite a while, and they are right. I looked at the minutes from that time ago. It was told that we are not going to be grooming. I like to think that we're going to be able to honor our word, and if this needs to be rediscussed and reevaluated, it's easy for us to do. And again, I think we have enough residents that would like for us to be able to follow through on what previous councils, I understand, but us now, I think that we can follow through and be able to give them what they're looking for. So my due diligence with honoring what the Gull Lake Trail Committee has worked towards and presented to you all. I know they have put a lot of time and effort into making this recommendation, and because it means a lot to these people.
Speaking for myself, I think that there's been a lot of lessons learned by the city on developing this trail. It's the first trail we developed, started under Matthew Hill, and Amber took it over from there. And coming into it, after a lot of it was already conceived, this was roughly what's happening, then making it happen. The residents were told that it was not going to be a groomed trail, period. And I've talked to Amber about this. What questions should have been asked at the time, that at the very beginning, is why would you groom this trail? Why wouldn't you groom this trail? I think the city's learned a lot of lessons here, but I think that, and I went back and listened to the Gull Lake, or to the trail meeting. I was watching it live, and it was very good discussion. And there's a lot of good, valid points that the Gull Lake Trail or the Gull Lake drifters make. But you know, in the end, this is in our city, and our residents don't want it groomed. And we told them we weren't going to groom it. So I think we have to live up to our word. I also think that we have more than adequate capabilities of monitoring the speed, monitoring the use. Yes, snowmobilers will run off the trail if it's not groomed, but in this case, there really isn't anywhere for them to run other than the road, which is where they were to begin with. So I don't, you know, I would hope that that's not going to be a problem. But again, we have the resources where we can monitor it, we can watch it, we can see if there's problems. Another thing that I took under consideration when I looked at it, there's no Triangle Oil anymore. They got to go to Holiday to get gas. So, and the Gull Lake drifters brought up a very, very valid point. They would love, and I think all snowmobile clubs would love to get rid of where the trail crosses the highway right now. I think it would be great. And with the Highway 371 corridor study, I would encourage people getting a hold of MnDOT, getting online with MnDOT, sharing your input there. There's a real potential with County Road 13, 77, and whatever MnDOT ends up deciding, that maybe some of that trail traffic could go across there, down 13 or something, or cut through the swamps and connect to the Paul Bunyan Trail safer than where it currently crosses at an intersection where it's lit and, you know, you can see substantially better than, where it's at. Speeds are typically a little bit slower, but all that takes time. And that gives us time, of course, to monitor what we're looking at. So, with, you know, that's the direction that I think we have time to, live up to our word. And, like I said, when the decision was made, Triangle Oil was open. A lot of people stopped in there. Triangle Oil was the only gas station on the trail, on the Paul Bunyan Trail between basically Baxter and Hackensack or Walker, something like that. So, and it's not there. So I think that's going to cause an impact on traffic levels on, you know, and it'll be interesting to see what it is. So, if there's nothing else from the council, I would entertain a motion. Or I'll make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we do not approve the grooming of the trail as, presented. And instead we monitor the situation and that we can collect the data needed and bring it back to the various groups that, Public Works, Parks and Rec in the future to analyze that information and working with the public, see what our next step, if there is to be a next step. But at this point, my motion is that we would not groom the trail this year.
I'll second
second.
that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Good. No trail grooming. This. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Yep. Oh, give it a few minutes to clear out.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, Mark.
A lot of people there. Kenny, we should almost,
You're welcome to stay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
do we have a lot of people there?
Okay,
About 25.
okay.
Jenny, I
Okay.
apologize. Side note, I apologize not giving you the address ahead of time where I'm at. I just emailed it to you. I don't know if you need it.
You want it?
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, next item under new business, public hearing recommendation from Parks Commission, reference ordinance amendment.
So Mayor Ryan, you'll need to have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is open.
If Amber would please describe what the ordinance amendment is, very minor.
Yep, this is a minor amendment, just to clarify the language between the golf cart ordinance and the trail use policy. The addition is to add, that golf carts are prohibited on the Gull Lake Trail.
Is there anyone that would wish to address the item from the public? Seeing no one.
We can close the public hearing.
I guess,
Well,
We can close the public hearing and then you can have
yeah,
council
then the
discussion.
council will do, yeah. I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Council comments.
golf carts on the trail already or a daily thing. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see one on there. So I don't, I honestly think that's a probably a bigger issue than the snowmobiling. So I don't know that how that's gonna be enforced, but every day I see them on there.
Yeah, we're certainly in an educational component, and
Right.
being the seasonal nature of the community, I believe it will be an educational thing every year. But it kind of goes back to the funding agency and how they view the use of the trail. And so when we clarified the question, they see it as no golf carts unless we were to go back and amend the master plan. So I know when we get comments, if police are able to get out there and educate them, they certainly do. I know neighborhoods are helping educate as well. But yes, it's going to be a continuous process, and hopefully we can enhance that as we go through the permitting and re-permitting as well.
I see, to add to what Amber said, what I see is, as the officers have a chance, she can work with the police. How do we put something together? If you see people on there, you get a chance, and you're certainly not going to run after them. But I mean, just at an intersection stuff, hey, just FYI, here's the ordinance. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. I know for Grandview, they have told everyone that you cannot be on the trail. And it's a constant battle. I stop people and explain it to them all the time. It just, please don't, because there's bikers, there's walkers, there's dogs. It's just not what it is. And if they have a question, contact City Hall and get a copy of everything. So, but Jesse, anything?
I don't have any additional, I don't know.
Well, I would entertain a motion then to accept the ordinance amendment as adopted or as written, presented, excuse me.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance as presented. Which is saying that the golf carts cannot be used on the trail.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Mayor Ryan, can I please have a motion to publish the ordinance summary in the newspaper?
I'll make a motion to publish the ordinance summary in the newspaper.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next item on the committee or on the agenda is dissolution of the City of Nisswa Gull Lake Trail Committee. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? Again,
One note on this, don't mean to interrupt, John. Jenny, Amber, I know we talked about building or erecting a small monument with a plaque, like there's a plaque out front of the city hall for when that was constructed. I'd like to still see that be done, and maybe we can push to have it installed spring thaw. Plenty of time to design it. If the council is in agreement, and that can be incorporated into this motion.
We can, Mayor Ryan, if I could.
yeah,
Yes, council members on, thank you. Yes, that is still on our radar to complete. We'd like to plan for something this spring as part of a ribbon cutting ceremony. And so we'll continue to work on that, but we can certainly incorporate that into the motion if you choose. But yes, we will definitely do that.
I have
Alright.
no issue with that. I don't know how the rest feel.
I'm fine with that too.
I'm sure if city engineer was here, he would say there's still a little bit in that contingency fund on the project to fund it, so. I'd like to make a motion to approve the dissolution of the City of Nisswa Gull Lake Trail Committee, with consideration for honoring this committee with a commemorative plaque at a ribbon cutting ceremony, this spring of 2024.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next item is a recommendation from the Parks Commission, reference Parks Commission resignation. And I'm gonna butcher the name.
Amber can,
Maida submitted her letter of resignation at the November 2nd meeting. So we're just looking for approving her resignation and wanted to thank Maida for her service, and she's been a valuable committee member, so we appreciate that.
Mayor, and I do have a question for Amber. I'm assuming you'll be looking to fill the vacancy?
Correct.
Okay,
For a 4-year term.
because Maida's term ends January 25.
If I
so
do a 4-year term, it helps us stagger better.
just wanna, so that'd be part of that. She'll advertise for the vacancy and work to fill the position.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation of
Maida.
Maida. And thank her for her service. Appreciate it very, very much. I did read her note, and it's, you know, life does happen. And that we post the open position for a 4-year term to maintain the staggering of the positions on the committee.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is the recommendation from the Planning Commission, reference ordinance amendment, parking and loading.
Mayor, and I can take this briefly. Bethany, our city planner, did provide the information in your packet with a high-level overview and the front memo to say that the proposed ordinance amendment seeks to remove the prohibition of on-street parking in Nisswa from the Land Use and Development chapter of the Nisswa Code of Ordinances. The Planning Commission did recommend approval at the November 6th Planning Commission meeting. That's where they held the public hearing and presenting it to the council for approval tonight.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission regarding the ordinance amendment 030-23.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mayor, and if I could please have a motion to publish the ordinance summary.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next item is the Nisswa Crossings Plat Amendment. Number 5.
I can take that one as well, if you'd like, briefly. Memo from Bethany, our city planner. The Nisswa City Council approved the final plat of Nisswa Crossings on August 16th, 2022 with 20 conditions. During the construction of the infrastructure this fall, it was discovered that condition 13 prevents the implementation of the approved grading plan by not allowing for alterations to vegetation within the 50-foot buffer. The developer proposes to minimize vegetation alterations to the buffer and to revegetate once the grading is complete. The attached document information in your packet details the areas of impact. So staff proposes to amend condition 13 as well as the Planning Commission recommendation to state the 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the planned unit development shall remain in a natural state except for road areas. Once grading is complete, the disturbed vegetation in the buffer shall be revegetated and maintained in a staggered natural coniferous state of at least 8 feet in height as approved by city staff and engineer. Structures may not be constructed in the buffer.
Pretty straightforward. Okay. I'll entertain a motion on that unless there's questions.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the Nisswa Crossings plat amendment, specifically pertaining to condition number 13.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Next item is a resolution certifying unpaid sewer charges. I will make a motion to accept the resolution certifying unpaid sewer charges as presented by staff.
And I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. And now the one we all love to hate. Resolution adopting increase in sewer rates.
Mr. Mayor, it is reflected on the resolution itself, but just to make the council aware under the chart for the 2024 quarterly rate, it does reflect an 8% increase from 2023. Also noting for item number 2 that the sewer connection fees will remain the same as 2023. So only the quarterly rate will change.
Well, I'll be the bad person and make the motion to adopt the resolution, increasing and adopting increase in sewer rates as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Gull Lake Trail Project pay application number 6. If I'm reading this correctly, we still have roughly 569,000 in retention fees. Am I reading that right? Balance to finish, including retainage? Or
Yes, 569,000 is left between Nisswa and Lakeshore. I mean, in total, the project.
okay,
So
and
this-
there is a punch list that will still have to go over in the spring. 'Cause
Yeah.
we'll have to wait for the thaw and runoff and all that good stuff,
Correct, yeah.
because we live in Minnesota. Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we accept the payment application number 6 on the Gull Lake Trail for the phase 4 for the amount of $618,966.71, with the understanding that there is a retainage of 5%.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Fire Department request to purchase from the DNR, a used 2008 Ford F-450.
Well, good evening. Back again. So in 2008, Richard Geike reached out to the Minnesota DNR to see if they had any grass trucks available. 2 Thursdays ago, I get a phone call from the state of Minnesota, the DNR's office, saying, hey, we have a grass rig for you. You finally made the top of the list since 2008. So it's an F-450. It's a 2008 model. Unreal. But anyway, it's got 36,000 miles. It's 4-wheel drive. It's diesel. It has a winch on the front. Has a 250-gallon tank in the back with a foam system. The slide-in unit alone, if we were to have that built, would cost us about $25,000 to $30,000. So we feel this is a good move for us, and it'll also help our capital and improvement program. We had a replacement of 2028 for a grass rig. We feel like we can probably add, depending on how things go, probably 8 years to that. So I think it's a good move for us. In my current city budget now, the sinking fund can absorb this purchase, but I plan to use the rest of my budget, which it's a yo-yo what we have truly, but we're going to burn up our budget and then take the rest from the sinking fund for this year to pay for it.
Can the pump on this, you can, because we were talking before.
It can suck from the lake, yes.
Okay,
Thank
yes.
you.
So we
Yes.
don't have to have.
It's a
separate-
DNR truck. They can
Okay.
suck from the ponds and lakes.
Good. Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the fire department's request to purchase a brush truck from the DNR.
I'll second that.
And
Any
it'll
further
be,
discussion?
go ahead. I said it'll be Nisswa's first yellow truck.
I'll make an amendment to that motion. To,
We've already called for,
Wait until
painting.
everyone says yes,
Well-
then bring up the other
well,
news.
we're blown away at the prices to paint this thing red, so it's gonna stay green.
bring it down to my shop. We know how to paint trucks red.
Okay, I'll let you paint it.
Any further
Uh,
discussion? All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now you would bring up the yellow. See,
So the next, you want to?
next item is recommending the approval of a new firefighter.
So we've had Nick Schumacher. The name says Shoes on there. That was a misprint. I figured I'd correct that tonight, but it's Nick Schumacher. If Nick, you want to stand up and just wave at him? So we have Nick here with us tonight. Nick's been hanging out with us for a little over a year, and we feel like he's going to be a decent fit in our fire department, and we would recommend that we get your approval to accept him on our department pending a background check, which
So-
I don't anticipate any problems.
He's been hanging out with you for a year. and
Oh,
he
little over a year.
Still wants to. Okay,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, so
Okay, no problem.
he's shown a lot of interest.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the hire pending the successful completion of the physical fitness exam and pending the background check as stated by the staff of Nicholas Schumacher.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Well, that's a motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carry. Now you can bring up the yellow. Okay. Number 11, and accept, accept the resignation of Connor Collette from the Nisswa Police Department.
We don't have to, do we?
You don't have to, but it really doesn't change anything. Unfortunately, yeah. I'll make the motion regrettably that we do this. Connor's been a great asset to the department, to the city. And I wish him nothing but success. I think he's gonna have a very successful career. I really do. So, but I'll make the recommendation that we, or the motion to accept the resignation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next item on the agenda is recommendation to, or request to advertise the vacancy of,
Oh, you skipped one item.
what's that?
For the
Number 12.
surety, the dog.
Oh, recommendation to accept the offer.
The city of Baxter. Yes, I can.
Oh, there it is. All right, I did have it right. Recommendation to accept the offer from the city of Baxter for Nisswa Canine Surety.
It's the first time in my life I've ever seen the depreciation value of a animal. So it's interesting. It's sad to see Shuri go. I know that it was great to have Shuri in the department. I was talking with Craig about it a little bit, but maybe down the road again, and I'm sure Shuri will serve Baxter well.
I think Shuri will serve Baxter very well, and it's very hard for when you have a canine and an officer that train together, come up together and do it from the beginning. It's very hard. And to break up a team like that. So I think although it's a loss of an asset for us, it's also probably the best for the dog and the handler, keeping them together as a team. So, but, does anyone have any questions about it, or I'll accept it, or, get a,
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the offer from the city of Baxter for our canine Shuri.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, 13, police department would like to request the ability to advertise for potential vacancy. Todd?
Good evening. So we're just looking for approval to post a standard job opening ad, be on the post board website. So we can get the ball rolling as quick as possible and hopefully get the position filled. There's a lot of openings and not a lot of applicants, so we just want to get things started as quick as possible.
And I did talk with you earlier, Todd. We want to make that until filled, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Just-
you guys would,
Open
handle-
till filled.
okay. So are there any questions for Sergeant Smansky?
Thanks, Todd. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the request to advertise for a potential vacant officer position.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay. Um, 14, 2024 compensation study recommendation. Jenny, would you like to?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. So as a follow-up to our October conversation about the 2024 compensation study, we've had some opportunities internally to talk about the study and get feedback about how to best set up the study parameters and have clarity for staff or council, so we understand what we will be asking for and hopefully the types of information that we will receive at the end of it with the report. So included in your packet is a recommendation where I tried to outline as many potential variables that are incorporated into the study as are known, so that we have some clarity again on the front end to the extent possible for what we will be working with at the completion of it. Also attached is the recommendation from the Employee Retention Committee, and I incorporated those recommendations into what's on the front page of your memo so that we can hopefully work off of, one total document. So I will just spend a minute and go through. There are 8 recommendations to get council feedback. I think it's important to say also that as much as the goal is, again, to try to put all of these criteria together, in the beginning, some of this just may be adjusted as we go, depending on the information we get from the consultant or on their recommendations. So we'll continue to have feedback loops throughout the process to understand what's going on. You just can't predict everything on the front end. But the first recommendation is to go with option 2, which is a market analysis with pay grid calibration. And so what they will do is DDA will get comparable market information and benefit information to the extent that we can gather that benefit information, to summarize all of that using the comparable cities, which I will mention here in a minute. And also include a pay grid calibration. And so what that means is that they will look at our current pay grid structure, which is 9 steps, and compare that to other cities to see if we're still aligned with, I'll say, the current trends of the pay grid. Maybe there's 8 steps, maybe there's 10 steps, maybe there's a difference in percentage between the steps. So those are the kinds of things that they'll look at to see, are we in line with market or do we need to adjust that in any way? So that proposal was a cost of $10,100. And then depending on the results of the information that we receive, there may be some case-by-case need to look at individual job descriptions or positions, just depending on what the results. Again, you can't predict every potential variable, but we'd like to have that as an option to say, there may be something we need to look at here. So let's consider that as an add-on early January or February, depending on the timing. So that would be a cost to be determined. I don't think it would be anything really significant that we'd have to really worry about on this time to budget separately for. Item number 2 is a list of comparable cities. On the last page of the memo is a recommendation to use the same list of comparable cities that we've used previously. I did not receive any feedback that that should change. And as far, DDA has confirmed that that is a good size list. I don't know that they typically work with 25, but I think that will give us plenty of opportunity for good data results in response. Number 3, the project team. So the project team would be the group of individuals who will really dive into the details of the compensation study and work with DDA to understand the information and to give feedback and have that kind of feedback loop. So I provided 2 recommendations for the council to consider. Certainly, if you have other recommendations as well, that's an option as well. I was thinking of this from 2 different perspectives. So option A would be to appoint the city administrator and the employee retention committee as a whole to the project team. Option B would be to appoint the city administrator and 1 member from each of the employee retention committee, the supervisor union, the Teamsters union, and the clerical union to the role of the project team, trying to get at making sure every group, employee potential group, is represented in this analysis part of that. So that as a team that they will make recommendations to. Number 4 would be the design team. Recommendation that the city council assume that role, that is the decision maker in the process. That seems appropriate that the council would be the design team as my recommendation. Number of responses to qualify. So if you don't have enough data, then it doesn't help when you have 1 response or 2. It potentially could skew the data in the results. Per conversations with DDA, recommendation to the council would be to consider positions with less than 5 responses to exclude them from the overall results. Mark seems very confident that he'll have really good information for each position and will work to have that. Again, that might need to adjust, but I think just getting a general sense of this is where we'll look to say, do we exclude or include, is the idea. Number 6, range of market comparison. My recommendation is to use plus or minus 5% as comparable to market. In the supplemental notes following that front page of the memo, I did speak with Mark at DDA, and his recommendation or sort of note of current practice is that it's plus minus 10% as comparable to market. But that feels like a really big range. And I don't know that that's the goal from a council perspective or staff perspective. We used 5% in 2021. So recommending that that is at least the place where we aim for the study results and see where we go from there. Implementation, a recommendation from the Employee Retention Committee, which I think which is really helpful, to request that DDA provide 2 implementation proposals or ideas for the city to consider, whether that's how fast the implementation is or what the structure is. Certainly they'll have some ideas for us, but I like the idea of 2 implementation proposals. And then number 8 is just an acknowledgement that if we have 2 proposals to look at, that there will be a budget impact. And I don't know that it would be good from either perspective to assign too much specificity right now to what that budget impact would be. Let's just say we're going to spend X amount of dollars. Well, you just don't know what the results are going to be, and that might put us in a box that we don't want to be in quite at this moment. So I just recognizing that there will be a budget impact, but the council will consider that upon review of the results. So that is a overview of all of the recommendations. Certainly looking for feedback or questions on any or all of them, and then just overall direction so that we can provide that to Mark at David Drown to start to get everything set for January for the study. Thank you.
Jesse, did you have any comments you wanted to go make?
Not exactly, Mr. Mayor. No, I do not.
Mark?
Yeah, I think it's actually very well thought out. So
Yeah,
I like this.
I agree.
That's all.
Joe?
Just a couple questions for option A or B. Have you got any feedback from the employee retention committee or the different staff or unions or people involved with this on their preference?
Councilmember Hall, not as far as the specific options. I think we've got folks here. Certainly they could give their feedback. I'm happy to get that now. As far as they did provide a suggestion in their recommendation, which was to include staff representation potentially from the Employee Retention Committee, the HR or admin team. So I think either one of these does cover that. Certainly trying to incorporate the committee is important. So that would be done either way. And they could self-select someone that could also meet some of the criteria here too, but just so.
And then this is a company that is new for us doing this?
For the study itself, yes. Working with the company, no, we have worked with them in the past.
Right, but we've never worked at this level with them.
For
this
a compensation
project.
study,
Right,
correct?
yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and how do they compare to the previous company that we worked with?
Well, it's hard to know until we actually go through the entire process, but I believe, at least at this point, that the information, that the time they've spent with us with Zoom meetings and answering questions and letting us know that, for example, they will provide us with all of the data that they're going to collect with this study. We didn't receive that the last time. I think that they will provide us a much more comprehensive and complete results so that we can work with them and they'll be able to give us more options for how we implement.
And then my last question is, what has been the range that has been used in the past? As far as like the 5%, you said the standard market range was 10%.
Yes.
Suggestion 5.
Yes.
What is the range that has been used in the past?
For the 2021 study, the consultant from Springstead said 5% plus or minus was the accepted range that she worked off of when she did these studies. So I asked the same question of David Drown, and Mark said, oh, we use plus or minus 10%. And I thought, well, I don't think that getting within 10% was our goal, because that's a much bigger range, meaning we could be, in theory, 10% below and say, well, we're within range. I don't think that that's the goal of the council or the staff. So I went back to, well, let's use the 5%. Not that you couldn't be less than that, but at a minimum to getting to that would be a reasonable goal, but you could certainly set whatever range the council felt appropriate.
But the last time it was 5% that we used.
That was the recommendation of,
Mhm.
that was within
Consistent.
comparable.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we're being consistent.
We are.
Mhm.
The only thing I have is, on the project team, I kind of like option B. One of the things I want to make sure we have is that everyone's represented, or every group has an opportunity to be represented if they choose to not do that. Okay, but, I think, each union should have a person there. The Employee Retention Committee, definitely. And I think that, there's going to be, I would assume this group is going to, offer opinions, voting, what they think as a group and stuff. So if you have, for example, a member of the supervisors union, the Teamsters and the clerical union that are also members of the Employee Retention Committee, that shouldn't, like, all of a sudden I get to vote type of thing. Like I'm covering both positions at once. So there's a good representation. Everybody needs to have a seat at that table so that everyone gets heard. And then that way, as a group, they have the opportunity to discuss that all among themselves, where everybody's coming from, and they can, put their decision together from there. I think that's something that we definitely want to offer and make sure that that opportunity is there, because I want to know what they all have to say. And if they choose, if a group chooses not to get involved, okay, I get it, that's fine, that was their choice, but don't come back later and say you weren't given an option or an opportunity to be there. So that's why I like number B on the project team. The design team, I guess, you know, I have no problem as a council member being that, the council can be that. I think we all need a better definition probably of just exactly what that's all going to entail. So.
That will essentially be the project team's recommendation to the council for consideration, and you'll receive the information, you'll hear the rationale for why, but
Okay.
then it will be, well, here's the information and here's our recommendation. You can
Right.
make your decision how you see fit.
Mhm.
Hopefully using the project team as your guide.
The +-5 is consistent. I think it has been, I mean, I know in contract negotiations, it was stipulated several times by the personnel committee that, you know, this isn't we're gonna wait and see after we get the results thing. If we're low, we want to get this thing going. We want to get back. We want to make sure that we're in compliance, you know, in there with everyone. We don't want to do like the last time, where things got backed up too far. We want to get it done and get it up and going. So, at least that's consistent with what we did before, and then the council can make a decision if we want to do as the city administrator recommended, or not recommended, but stipulated that, you know, if we want it to be 3%, we can make that decision. Or we want it to be, you know, compatible 100%, whatever, we get to make the, you know, that final call, but at least 5% is consistent, so. Okay. So our next step for this is?
I would appreciate council approval on these recommendations as outlined, with a specific decision on item number 3 as far as the project team, if you like A or B or something different.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept that we approve the recommended components to the 2024 compensation study as presented and then in respect to item number 3, that we go with option B, so that all groups have equal representation on that portion of the committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried. Next item is the evaluation summary for the Jenny Mac City Administrator. Everyone have a chance to read that? Was there any questions, or I will entertain a motion?
I move that we accept the summary evaluation of the city administrator as provided, as presented here.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, Jenny is gonna have to explain this one. Earned sick and safe time.
Yes, thank you. I will gladly walk the council through this. So as part of the 2023 legislative session, the state passed new legislation called Earned Sick and Safe Time. A summary is provided in your materials. Essentially, it provides earned sick and safe paid leave to all employees. I'll just simplify that it covers everyone, all employers and all employees. And so as such, we have been working to review the legislation parameters in order to incorporate it into our policies. The legislation is effective January 1, 2024, and employers must provide each employee with 1 hour of earned sick and safe time, ESST as we call it, for every 30 hours worked. with the ability to accumulate at least 40 hours each year, up to a maximum of 80 hours in total. So once you get 80 hours potentially in year 2 or beyond, then that's the maximum that you will accrue in that bank. Until you use some, then you can accrue more and kind of do that. So what is presented to you tonight is a lot of policy language. I apologize for that. It's a lot of standard language that has been provided to us. But what we have recommending, the city clerk and I, is that we consider ESST, earned sick and safe time, leave as an additional benefit to city staff that does not replace or modify the existing sick leave time that we have. We looked at it a bunch of different ways. We tried to incorporate it and tried to, fold it into our existing benefit structure, but it just felt, after we thought we were on the right track, and then we thought about it for a while, that it just seemed a little confusing. Felt like maybe staff might be sort of being penalized because we already have sick time. It just didn't really feel great. So our proposal is that we essentially incorporate this leave as required, effective January 1, and that it is in addition to the existing sick leave policy that we have in place. The sick leave policy does have a couple of just clarifying items I wanted to clear up between full-time and part-time staff. For example, part-time employees, adding that there's a maximum accrual, similar to full-time employees have a maximum accrual amount. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to note about this. My request tonight is to get your feedback on whether or not you like this approach. If you have any questions or concerns about, the language or what our approach is to it. And then what we would do is finalize the policy to bring back to the council in December. And between now and December, we would distribute this amongst all staff so they'd have a chance to look at it and provide their feedback as well. One final piece of information before I will turn it back is that this does include, as I mentioned, all employees. So full-time, part-time, seasonal, and firefighters. So there will be a new component, a benefit component to firefighters. Thankfully, Kiki and Chief Bailey have been talking today, and it sounds like the fire department has the information already that we need to implement this, but it will be a little bit different for them just as far as this sort of leave time that they're going to have available, but we will work through that. But I just wanted to mention that that does impact firefighters. It does not impact elected officials. And I will hit the high points. So I will stop and open it up for questions and feedback on this proposed policy.
So my understanding, I did talk with you a little bit about this so full-time employees, they build their max up, whatever they have when they retire, that goes into there's a portion of that, or all of it goes into their, just like it does now with goes into their.
So with the sick leave, employee sick leave, if they leave the city or retire, any separation, 50% of that balance gets put into a healthcare savings plan. So the policy is written to provide the same treatment for ESST time as sick time. So 50% of whatever that amount is in that bank would go to the healthcare savings plan along with the sick time.
And part-time employees
Would lose, there would be no payout upon separation with the city.
Okay.
Same with sick time.
Okay.
Why are they adding the word safe time? What's that for?
They're specific, so the language for what you can use this new leave time for is slightly different than sick leave. And so there are additional options for what employees can use the leave time for that are broader than just sick time. So I believe just as far as safety and personal concerns and or weather-related issues, caring for a family member, the definition is just broader in scope. And so that's just how that came to be.
And currently, it looks as though you can get up to a maximum of 120 days. Is that correct?
For sick time,
For sick
for
time?
sick time.
But then they're saying for sick and safe time, you can only get up to 80 hours.
Correct. So employees will have 2 banks of time,
Okay,
and the sick leave, the 120 days does not change. And then there will be an additional bank of 80, up to 80 hours that they can bank
for sick,
for earned sick and safe time for that other category.
oh, for the safe time.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
You, you could use those in conjunction with each other, the way I understand it.
Yes,
so they would have a total of 100 or 200 days, in other words,
200 days or
No.
hours.
120
80
plus
hours.
80.
960 hours out, the hour equivalent, and then the 80 hours earned sick and safe time.
Yeah, but the
Yes.
max would work out to be about 100 or 200, wouldn't it?
No, because you're
I'm
translating
confusing it.
days and hours.
It'd be about 130, 140. And there is no
Oh,
minimum.
days, I'm sorry, yeah.
There is no minimum on this yet, correct? As far as when employees are eligible, there's no, you gotta work here 6 months, 12 months, 24 months to be eligible. It's eligible on hiring.
So the legislation's actually written to where you have to work at least 80 hours to qualify for the ESST time. However, employers can be more generous with the policy. And so our policy is written essentially that hour 1 you work, we're going to just start tracking that. Once you hit 80 hours, you have to go back and pay or, accrue the hours that were earned anyways. And so for us, I don't think it's going to be that big of an impact to just say, just hour 1, we just start tracking it and you'll get your credit for your hours worked. But no, you don't have to be here for 6 months or a year or anything like that. It'll start immediately.
Can we be more restrictive? Can we put a 6-month or 12-month limit on it?
No, it would only be, you could wait to see if an employee works 80 hours. You could put that restriction on because that's written in the law. So if somebody doesn't hit the 80 hours, then they wouldn't accrue anything.
But we can't put a stipulation on that, retroactive, you have to go to, like you have to pass probation 6 months and then it would retroactively, it's the same difference. I mean, you can't say that anyway. So even if they didn't make probation, you'd still have to calculate that time out anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's just easier to do it from the get-go. I see what you're saying. Got it. Weird. Okay.
Yes, it's been interesting to work through the details, but
But you guys have a plan and you're good with it?
I think it's a great sort of meet in the middle with making it easy to implement, clear to understand, hopefully, but we will get this out to all staff for feedback and then certainly adjust if we need to and bring you something formal in December. If the council is.
And it's easy for,
Yeah, payroll, the
Yeah.
payroll system will be set
Okay.
up to do that.
All right.
Yes, yes. So
well, I will entertain a motion. If,
I just need to, I mean,
Or
this
discussion.
discussion, so as long as I
I-
don't hear any major concerns.
I think the way it's written,
Okay.
it's as clear as
I-
mud to me, but.
I don't have any concerns.
And
Great.
we don't really have an option.
Well, no,
No.
we don't get a
No.
choice. I'm
No,
just,
no,
yeah.
no, we do
I
not.
just- If anyone has a, if anyone does see something as it time goes on, please let the staff know and.
Yep.
Run from there, but yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Okay, next item is on old business lodging tax draft ordinance.
So in your packet tonight, we have proposed draft ordinance language that was provided by the Brainerd Lakes Chamber at our last meeting, just as a starting point, and wanting to provide that, the council asked to provide that, for me to provide that to you tonight. As well as we have received one letter from Madden's Resort regarding the proposed lodging tax. That information is in your packet. And I believe the council wanted to just provide an opportunity for the public to provide comment tonight if there was any feedback, as well as council feedback on the proposed ordinance. I do have a question that can be finalized later of the city attorney on some of the one specific section on the ordinance language, should the council want to move forward and schedule a public hearing in December. So with that, I will turn it back over for council questions or questions from the public.
Mark, any questions?
No, I don't. I like it as it is.
I guess I've had people from the community ask me about this, and being that, Grandview, I guess, is the largest resort about in the Midwest, and the dollars, generated specifically from them, going to the community as a whole versus staying in the city of Nisswa. Like I say, I've had residents of the city come and ask me how and why does that impact the greater community with the range up, from Cross Lake down towards Little Falls to wherever, when in the city proper of Nisswa, it's kind of the most dollar revenuing source of anywhere in the Brainerd Lakes area. And so I guess I've had residents speak out and say, okay, hold on, time out a minute. How are we going to be ensured that that money actually, if this is kind of the central hub, Nisswa, get put back into Nisswa versus get spread out further? And I guess
Great point.
From that aspect, I guess I don't have enough information or clarity on the benefits. Also to, Abby's letter here too. I guess I've got to, take that into consideration, and just feel like I need to understand more of this before we move ahead, since we are, as the city of Nisswa, the biggest player in the game. And so I guess I just need more information.
My stance on the matter is I do not feel comfortable with, especially after being witness for almost 31 years now, the growth of this area to the degree in which it has. I'm sure most, if not all, were present for the 4th of July parade in downtown Nisswa. I cannot see feasibly how this city can willingly market itself further with little financial recourse outside of the boost of the economy, which I understand fully the benefits of short, medium, and long term. This is a creation of this tax to be able to benefit these resorts, to be able to get their occupancy year round, and understand that. But we are talking about more or less the notion of adding city water due to the strain on the aquifer source that we have within the city. Joe, you know better than anybody sitting at that council right now, maybe next to John, the emergency services strain that we have when we have large events. And I don't exactly feel comfortable with throwing this 3% tax adder on there. Granted, I understand it's going to be coming completely through the resorts, but in order for that to be a lever for a greater marketing ploy for these for-profit businesses, I don't understand exactly why it needs to come through the city. The money that's coming back to the city, I thought it was, Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, 5% of the leftover, I have to pull it up, but really it amounts to not a lot of money. It amounts to essentially the administrative costs that will have to facilitate that 3% lodging tax. I don't know. It's something that I've just had hesitation with. The presentation was very well done by Matt. I don't know. I think it was a eye-opening perspective for me to see how congested this city was, and to be able to anticipate and be excited about the prospect of 10, 20, 30% greater volume of tourists in this area. It, as a long-time and permanent and future long-term resident, I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, I guess, you know, to add on to what you said, Jesse, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of other components to go along with this. One of them would be housing for employees for all these resorts and stuff that's in a huge need in the area. But like I say, I'm just looking for more information, you know. Several citizens have came and asked questions, and I just don't feel like I have the information to.
Mayor Ryan, if I could, Matt Killian from the Brainerd Lake Chamber is here tonight, and would certainly, I think, appreciate if there was specific information we were looking for, then he could work to provide that to us if there's anything. So I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah, well, that's, I saw Matt here. I just was wondering if, you know, what exactly we want for more information. I mean, what I'm hearing is you know, maybe we need to come back and look at this again in December, but what exactly is either the hesitation or what is it that we don't know that we want to know? And can we get that information? Are we prepared to ask those questions tonight? Do people have those questions ready of Matt? And maybe we could, you know, get that information so we can get it in time for everybody to see it, read it, understand it better. Ask, you know, do we need to do that? So
We can, I think one of the main
Yeah.
questions is.
okay, so do we want to have Matt come up and we can
Yes.
ask him directly? If
Yes,
that's
please.
okay,
Yes,
that'd be
please.
great.
Thank you.
Hello, great to be here.
Thanks. Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I think one of the main questions that I've been asked that I don't know how to answer is, just that Nisswa with all the resorts, and specifically Grandview, generating the most dollars, in the city of Nisswa proper, you know, just other business owners and stuff coming and saying, okay, well, you know, if this is kicked out to all the other communities, not trying to be selfish towards Crosby or Cross Lake or anything, but like, okay, what's the benefit for specifically the city of Nisswa with this?
Right. Well, one of the things that I would start by saying is that when you think about the Brainerd Lakes area, the lakes area tourism experience, and this was a key component of that. There's no doubt about it, especially in retail and events. But when you look at the collection of communities, and you know, Grandview is certainly a large property, but you look at Breezy Point Resort, you look at Craigan's, you look at Rutgers. We've had conversations on all those properties. Nisswa, the partnership with the Nisswa Chamber is going to ensure that Nisswa is adequately represented throughout the whole process. I don't know that you can market the lakes area without showing this crown jewel of Nisswa. But it really is about, I think, for everyone, what unites everybody is the collection of communities and the different experiences that you can have as a leisure traveler or business traveler to move around the area. And I think that's what really makes us unique as a region. It's not just one city. It's this collection of experiences that we all bring to the table. So that's a little bit of a fuzzy answer. But you know, the way that this needs to move forward is industry leadership, private sector leadership moving it forward, and making sure that we have all those systems set up within that advisory board and that leadership council to make sure everyone is taken care of. And this was certainly a big part of that. Our board chair is Frank Sukup from Grandview Lodge, so he's certainly making sure that Grandview is represented in the process.
What areas currently have this?
Every tourism destination that I know in the state of Minnesota has a what they call either a DMO or a CVB that exists within their city. And so I'd bring your attention back to the front page of this packet that lists the top ones. So CVBs and DMOs, as I mentioned before, the CVB, the convention is the business travel, the conferences, all the group travel. The DMO doesn't have that. It's just tourism marketing only. But we, to our knowledge, are the only major tourism or even minor tourism destination in Minnesota that does not have a lodging tax supported convention and visitors bureau.
So in the Great Lakes, not the Great Lakes, but the city area here,
Right.
the Brainerd Lakes area,
Mhm.
there is no one that represents that right now.
There are a couple of smaller organizations I mentioned before. There's an organization called Visit Brainerd that just is Brainerd Baxter proper. Now that's not where the bulk of the lodging is in the region, but they represent Brainerd Baxter proper. And then the Whitefish Area Lodging Association and Cross Lake and Ideal have a 1% tax that funds about $100,000 a year for some marketing efforts that they do. We've been ongoing conversations with the Cross Lake group, and we still remain hopeful that they would merge in with this more regional effort. But that's an ongoing conversation right now. It's all theoretical until we get some cities that actually lead the charge and pass the ordinance.
So Cross Lake has their own separate one for the city.
Cross Lake and Ideal, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's one of the conversations, amongst some of the, I'll say the business people of the city of Nisswa, like, hey, why isn't the city doing this by themselves? Just because we have, the largest piece of the puzzle and wanna look at that. So that's.
Well, actually, Joe, is it to be considered the largest or the smallest? We got 18.96 square miles in the city of Nisswa. You know how much of that's water.
Right.
And to your point though, Joe and Matt, I bring up to you is it's not the complete hesitation that I personally wouldn't be in favor for something like this. I just look at the constraint on the resources that we have already. And then additionally, primarily what we are looking at for bottleneck situations that can become a nightmare scenario when we do have these larger events. You made the pitch last month about Pam being a great party planner. Well, she is. I mean, look at the tens of thousands of people that were there for the 4th of July parade. And I know that's a reference, but seeing that, what took place, where our current fire hall is located, if there's a major event, that's a concern. The last thing I think any of us want is there to be a major incident, a mass incidents where there's something that would take place, loss of life. I know that this is a destination spot. Yahoo made an article 2.5 years ago during the peak real estate boom during COVID-19, and this place has just erupted. Look at the property tax increases. I personally think that I would like to see what the public would have to say about this on December 19th and be able to get more feedback from the general public, but also from the businesses within the chamber of Nisswa as well. We are not positioned like a Baxter, a Brainerd. I'd almost even say Cross Lake as well. We're just small, but yes, I know that we're a key piece of the puzzle. Somebody needs to lead the charge. I have more hesitation I have more hesitation before just jumping in with 2 feet on my own vote.
Sure. So the only thing that I would offer in response to that, Jesse, is I think it's important to keep in mind that events are one leg of the 3-legged stool. So there's certainly an event focus with this. But there's also leisure, travel, tourism, marketing, and then corporate and convention sales. Those are the three legs. I hope that we're going to be able to bring events and attractions of different sorts to drive tourism activity. I think it would be unrealistic to expect that to occur overnight. So when you talk about adding another big event that stresses your infrastructure and things of that nature, that I don't think that's a realistic scenario in the short term. I think what you would see is marketing investments in existing events to try to bring up tourism traffic at key times of year. And just to be clear, our focus is not July. You know, it's shoulder seasons. A lot of the smaller properties have a hard time filling in May and early June, extending. They would like to be open. A lot of them have told me into September through MEA. We're looking at those times of year where you don't quite have the kind of the natural organic volume of tourists that we see in July and August. So totally understand and respect the concerns of let's say we can't bring in millions of people and accommodate all those people all at once. I don't think that's what we're talking about. I think we're talking about incremental growth to form and bolster a year-round tourism economy that's economically sustaining for the whole area.
Understood.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the questions. How do we know that, you know, what's the data, what's the research, what's the marketing plan behind doing what you just said, putting, you know, extending the smaller mom and pop resorts in our town, you know, if large dollars from Nisswa is going into this, you know, is Nisswa getting the same, I'll say, percentage of return to really help these businesses grow versus be spread out over a greater whole in the area? I guess, you know, I want to make sure that, you know, that Nisswa is on the front end of it. If they're going to put out the most, I would like to see them get the most.
And totally understand that. I would suspect that Nisswa would get an outsized benefit as related to other communities, because you have just kind of more, you have a retail center, you have things that other communities don't have.
It's consolidated.
What's that?
It's a consolidated area, downtown
Correct,
shopping district, and then outside of that, you do have just simply the Grandview area beyond that. I thought that this entire ordinance proposal was fascinating originally. Seeing the details of it were definitely a little bit more peculiar. It's very refined, and I like the scheme behind it. I think it's going to help bolster the free capital side of this rather than the 3% going to the city coffers, where obviously we're going to do something wrong and make somebody unhappy somewhere. But for the purpose of tonight, you're essentially just looking for, Jenny, you're looking for feedback on if we should have a public hearing for December 19th, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Any feedback on if you want to continue the conversation, schedule the public hearing, questions on the ordinance, or that can follow over the next month as well. But I agree. I certainly think we're looking for more public input, business input. You can probably engage with Pam and the Nisswa Chamber to reach out to businesses to say, we'd like for your input. Can you follow up before December? Just as some suggestions. But
for me, I really think I'd like to hear the public input, because it really helps me to understand the issues better. I do talk with people individually, but I would like to hear more what other people might have to say.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions for Matt?
And I would just offer that if you think of anything in the meantime, feel free to let me know, and I'll reach out to Matt and we'll coordinate so we can get you information in real time and help answer those questions as they come up.
We'll certainly, just to jump in, we'll
Yeah.
certainly invite lodging properties to come and share their perspectives on it as well. You know, when you think about the measurement of it is going to be in overnight stays is one of the most transparent measurements and then that leads to economic impact for everybody else. But first and foremost, we want to bring people here. And we want them to stay multiple days because we know the spend is much higher, obviously, than if they have the day trip. So, but I'd be happy to provide whatever other information that you're looking for. Just let me know. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
So does the council, would you like to schedule the public hearing for December? And advertise for that?
I'm in favor of that.
I would-
If the rest is.
Only because December is a busy month for everybody. I don't know if we'd get the public maybe support in the month of December that we're looking for. That would just, with Christmas parties and all the activities. I just think it's a very busy month to do something like this, but that's my opinion.
I would suggest it be like in January.
Right.
Because certainly letters and emails, you know, should count for the same weight as coming, but yes, you could
Yeah.
certainly, if January is more agreeable, then we can plan for that.
I would say, I would recommend that. I would like that.
January.
Mhm.
Jesse, what do you think?
I like January. I'm getting married in January. If it's the week of the 22nd, I think that'd be great.
So we could, I mean, January will be organizational meeting, it'll be the regular council meeting, and what else? Those are the two things.
Those
I
are
know
the
we-
two typical.
Yeah.
We can tentatively schedule for January. We'll work to see how things align.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
That-
It allows the word to get out a little bit more.
Okay, and we'll work
Yep.
with
Yeah.
Pam and everything.
Then
Okay.
maybe, you know, we can also get the word out on the web, we can get the word out in the paper, we can get, you know, feedback, please. From the
Right.
public. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Anything else? Okay. Then the next item, that's our last item, council reports, if anyone has anything, otherwise we can go into closed session for a couple of items.
Nope.
Joe? Jesse?
No report.
Nope, okay. So make a recommendation to move into closed session pursuant, or should we, yeah, pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C. Reference consideration of offer for property purchase.
I'll second that.
And if you can add the PID numbers I gave you, thank you.
Oops.
Excuse me. For property purchase, PIDs, right? 282-30540, 282-30538, 282-30533, 282-30532, 282-30535, 282-30531, and 282-30517.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We are in closed session.
We will take a few minute break to switch the Zooms. So we'll have a couple minutes. You can,
Okay.
if you need it. Thank you.